Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of UGASports Live. My name is Radi Nabulsi. I'm joined by Dayne Young and Jim Donnan, the latter of which has experience as a Georgia Bulldogs head coach. So at least one of us knows what the hell we're talking about, and that's only one of us that knows what we're talking about. So we're here to pepper Coach Donnan with questions, and if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the comments section there. If you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, pop them in there. Also, just let us know where you're from and follow us on those platforms. We just hit 39,000 subscribers. We really appreciate that. That's the fastest we've gone from fastest we've gained 1,000 subscribers ever, like 2 weeks. We went from 38 to 39. Now we want to get to 40,000. So please help us get there. We greatly appreciate it. And Dayne, I'm just going to, normally we do our opening thoughts on the game and, what happened last week, and let's look ahead to this week. But we've got a lot of questions about last week, and I always feel that we kind of rush those at the end. This is a show for the people, so let's give them their chance to get questions answered by Coach Donnan. So why don't you start feeding them in there to him, and let's see what Coach Donnan has to say.
Yeah, I think the fans kind of dictated this because I feel like a lot of our early talking points would have been the questions, so we'll let people ask it that way. And a lot of these will end up being about offense. I want to start with Lump Dog, though, who even before I asked for questions sent one in. Coach Lump Dog asked, I teach with one of the best math teachers in America. I try to emulate what she does. I follow the notes. I try to do the same activities and exams, copy everything, but I just can't teach as effectively of her. Is there an art to teaching that she understands, but I'm not quite there? Is it the same with coaching offense, or is there an art to calling plays versus a science of calling plays?
Well, that's a good question, Lump Dog. The biggest thing for anybody in any profession is to certainly know the guidelines that your boss wants you to undertake, but you got to be yourself. You got to be comfortable in your own skin, and you've got to utilize the people that work with you, regardless of what profession you're in, but particularly in football, you've got assistant coaches that work with you. You've got GAs that help you prepare things, and you have a final exam every week on the Saturday morning at 12, 3 o'clock, 7 o'clock. It's really difference is that final exam's in front of 96,000 people live and about 5 or 6 million on TV. So, and you're going to get criticized. That goes with the territory, but you got to have thin skin in some jobs, but thick skin in football. You can't get too caught up in as long as you feel like you're doing what you planned on doing. And sometimes you got to give the other team credit. Sometimes you got to jump on your own guys for making mistakes. We see it day in and day out. Every game I watch, pro football. Last night I saw a quarterback that's making more money until Joe Burrow signed his contract. Deshaun Watson last night had 2 15-yard penalties on himself for grabbing the other team's face mask. He had 2 touchdowns that the other team scored that he had something to do with. One of them was a tip pass for a touchdown by the Steelers, and the other one was a fumble that they picked up, T.J. Watt. So he gave up 12 points himself to the Steelers, or the offense did. The Steelers got minus 4 yards offense in the fourth quarter the other night, and that was it. And they still won the game. I got people calling me right now, want to know what's going on, but I can't. So the bottom line is you got to be yourself, and you got to do what the coach wants.
This question from Finance Dog: is the offense problem, in quotes, more of Carson Beck being hesitant to push the ball downfield, or Kirby keeping the training wheels on Bobo/Beck?
I don't know what's going on there in these phones. But,
he's getting calls from everywhere.
To me, you can say that about just about any offense. It's just regardless if it's ours or anything. We haven't pushed the ball down the field, that's for sure. But, we had some really good series the first half, 14 plays, 13 plays. We missed a field goal. They made some plays, South Carolina, but you can make comparisons. We had games last year. We scored 16 points against Kentucky. Against Missouri, we were woeful in the first half. Against Tennessee, we did nothing in the second half, regardless of why we did or didn't. We didn't do it. And against Tech, the first half, we were terrible. So you can make comparisons all you want to about last year, this year, whatever you want. But I think when a guy's trying to establish himself at quarterback, sometimes you're a little bit ultra careful and don't take the shot, particularly when you're not making first downs easily or big plays easily. But I thought with the advent of and we talked on the watch along show, with the advent of the running game coming along, that Beck played a lot more secure, knowing that he could hand the ball off and not just have to make every play himself. The biggest key in the game to me was the way our defense could not stop them in the first half. They kept the ball away from us. They made big plays. They attacked our extra defensive back, whoever it was, without Bullard in there. And they share, as a defensive group and coaches, just as much with that first half as the offense. If you had to grade who played the best, probably the offense, because they did score 3. The defense gave up 14, and the offense didn't, really make many mistakes. They just didn't capitalize in the red zone. So let's go on to the next one.
Well, there were 2 issues in the Georgia shot themselves in the foot with penalties. It's like you can't hold. I mean, it's just some.
That was the second half, wasn't it?
I think it was, but I'm just saying, when you're driving the field and all of a sudden you kill yourself on a drive and you only get 3 drives in the first half. You could have had a 4th one, but 2 guys didn't get out of bounds or weren't called out of bounds on that 1-minute drive. It's just that first half felt like if anything could go wrong, it did go wrong, and they drive down the length of the field and have trouble in the red zone, and then you should have been off the field on one of their drives. You get them in 3rd and 16, 3rd and 15, and they hit a little maybe a tunnel screen or something, and you miss tackles left and right. Kirby mentioned that a couple times, so it's that was offensive problems. Yeah, don't let them score as much. That would help. Get the ball back. Give yourself some plays. And Kirby also said that Carson checked 5 or 6 times into different plays because they had a better defense had a look that would have made the play they had called ineffective. And he also talked about sometimes the middle third is covered up. It's like we're not going to throw it downfield when the middle third of the field is covered up.
The general tendency, which I think I want to make sure that I'm not too quick to say that it's okay to question things, but the general tendency for, hey, you see these people bombs away, throwing the ball deep, and you see some things with guys just making it easy on short yardage and all that. And why can't we do it? I mean, we haven't done it like I feel like we're capable of, but we don't have the firepower we had last year either. We really don't right now. And now, if you just the one analysis I would make, we had approximately half of our team back from last year. When you look at the guys that left, 7 of which are playing in NFL, 3 of our top 11 right now aren't playing: Bullard, Mims, and McConkey. So, come on, you got high expectations. This team we played last year beat Tennessee like a drum, 63 to something. The quarterback was on fire like he was against us in the first half, and they won at Clemson. At Clemson, they got the leading receiver and the leading quarterback percentage-wise in the conference, and they executed. And you give them credit, but everybody wants to know what's going to be the final verdict. How are we going to keep working? We got plenty of room for improvement. We'll adjust here, losing Mims. We got to adjust without Bullard. We're not the same defensive secondary without him. We got holes there. So, and then McConkey just gives you so much that we hadn't had as far as big play. He can really make big plays.
South Carolina made a lot of good plays. I thought Carson Beck's best pass of the game was to the end zone to Ra Thomas, and it was a beautiful ball. It was a good route. South Carolina made a play. It happens. It's football.
Yeah, they really did cover that. That was a nice throw. And I think the rain really didn't have that much to do with anything, though. It certainly hurts the pass rush because it's harder to rush the passer in the rain. because you can't change directions and things like that. But 24-14 when you didn't have your best shot, I mean, I'll take it. The thing that I liked is the way we played in the second half when, adversity hit us. And we talked about that on the Watch Along show. We'll find out what these kids are made of here in the second half. I mean, 3 years ago, South Carolina, we didn't do it, and they got us. So
good point.
I still think this team is going to be good, but we got a long way to being a dominant team.
Yeah, fair.
This question from Big Fatty 94. Do you believe that all of the starter injuries will catch up to Georgia, or are the Bulldogs just that good and with enough depth to be fine, at least during the regular season?
Yeah, I'm starting to worry about it, Fatty. I'm really it's an issue because, like I just mentioned in the last statement, 3 of your best 5 players, in my estimation, aren't out there, and you got to get the other 2 I would mention. They're out there, Bowers and Starks, and then there's others that are good too. But I saw a pro scout today and talked to him just a little bit, and he said he just couldn't believe how good Mims played pass protection wise. I mean, he said you just don't have guys like that can move their feet and leverage guys. He said that's going to be a hard guy to replace, but it's not going to affect his draft status one bit. I promise you that. Listen to this guy talk. So
That's good news.
We'll just see. But far as you can't keep hoping that some of these 5-star, 4-star players are going to come in there without the experience and be able to play on the level they're going to have to. But good news is I don't see a whole lot of traffic in the way here. Missouri looked a little better than I want them to be, and certainly Florida's a great example of injuries. They played the Utah game without 2 of their starting offensive linemen. They couldn't run the ball for a foot, and then they ran up and down the field on Tennessee with 2 starters back. So we'll see how they do. They got Charlotte this week, but then they got the big game with UK right before we played Kentucky. So injuries are part of the game. There's no question about that. And you got to – some years you're very fortunate, and some years you're not. Right now, our fortune need to change a little bit.
Look how different Georgia appeared with the return of Dayne Edwards. You missed him the first 2 weeks, and you had Kendall Milton, who's valiant in his efforts, but still not quite 100%. And I feel bad for him with his MCL issue. But when Dayne came back healthy, they fed him the ball. He gets over 100 yards rushing and was just an absolute difference maker. And Kirby Smart was asked about that in the postgame. He said, look, he makes people miss in the hole. He breaks tackles. And sometimes you get a hat on a hat and you block everybody. Sometimes your running back has to beat one of their guys. It's one-on-one. And, can you make a move? Can you break a tackle? Dayne does that. And
yeah, that was a good point. And I saw today, I read a lot of stuff about pros, and Jim Nagy from the Senior Bowl had Edwards listed as a guy. I'm hoping he'll come back again. Does he have another year after this? Or you never know how many years you got with COVID. But
yeah. I don't think so with him, but you're right. I have no full answer.
But people don't realize this guy can play pro. You look at Cook. Cook got over 100 yards on Sunday.
Yeah.
We had 2 backs from Georgia. If you're a fantasy football player, Swift 166 yards, and Cook had about 130. That's 2 guys that weren't the number 1 back at Georgia when they were playing here. And then you got, unfortunately, Chubb. It's a terrible injury. But for our fans there, I talked to Ron Corson, our trainer, and he was in contact with Nick. He said, he was destroyed mentally, but he feels like he's going to be able to, get repair on it. They're trying to decide who's going to do it. Dr. Hancock, our doctor, did the first one. I'm not sure how the Browns are going to do it, but that's just a very awful injury.
That broke my heart. The reason I mentioned him is, the question about injuries. You look at the starters, losing Mims, one of your best offensive linemen, is tough. You see what you lost Branson Robinson, who's obviously very effective last year. That's tough. Having Kendall Milton sidelined is tough. Look at Georgia's offense without Lad McConkey. It's big. And Javon Bullard, you saw the difference. First 2 games, Javon's everywhere. He's making huge tackles. Him and Malachi Starks, best safety duo probably in the nation. And I'm not taking a shot at Dan the Man or David Daniel, but they're not Javon Bullard, and you can just see the difference. So Kirby Smart, to open the press conference on Monday, said, "I just spoke to Ron Corson. This is the most beat up I've been in my tenure here. In his 8 years, he's that many players down, and it just." I was watching the stream from his press conference just a few minutes, about 7:00. He's like, "Yeah, these guys are so-and-so can't practice. So-and-so's not ready yet. It just doesn't look good. Thank God you got UAB and not Tennessee this weekend."
Yeah, well, everybody wants you, and here's about our depth and all that, and I can understand that. But it takes a lot to mesh a team, and it takes individuals that have different skill sets to come in there and augment other guys and do things like that. So, and we have an intricate system, no question about it. So, even though you say, well, Georgia should be able to do that, but realistically, you take 3 of the best 5 players off of Ohio State, 3 of the best 5 off of any.
They'll take one, take Marvin Harrison off there, and they'll bitch about it for a year.
Right. No, I'm just talking about you take them out of off their team and see how good they are.
Yeah,
it's just it's okay that injuries happen, but who are the players they're happening to? And I do feel like though that we got enough within our system to regroup and play with who we got and still be a really good team. Don't get me wrong. I'm not playing the world's smallest violin or anything that, for my heart pumps Pepsi Cola or anything like that. I'm just telling you, we got to realize that you just can't snap your fingers as a coach and expect to be what you thought you might be. I tell you, I saw these guys scrimmage, and I told Roddy, I went when they had the alumni, the players, get to see your old buddies and all that, guys I coached. That was one of the most impressive I've seen a team look. This team is a shell of that as far as some of the guys that aren't out there now.
Real quick, talk about depth. Georgia's real thin in running back room. We got a story on the front page of UGASports.com right now about following the future, guys that are committed to Georgia and how they're doing. You'll like this, Coach. Jabri Coleman, he's a 2025 running back commit out of Philadelphia. He rushed the ball for 39 times this past Friday night, 281 yards.
39. Wow.
Yeah, and almost 300 yards and a couple touchdowns. So that's a pretty impressive junior right there to keep an eye on.
Junior, but we got those three guys coming up that one of them was here this weekend on his official visit. The Nathaniel Frazier from out in California, #1 multi-purpose back in the country, and then Bowen's a kid from Florida, and then
Dwight Phillips out of Pebblebrook.
Yeah, so
we have no blocking for him, by the way.
We're going to enhance that room, and I still think Andrew Paul can help, but been impressed with Cash Jones. I mean, he does what he's supposed to, and of course, a lot of teams like to have Bell back there running, so we'll be okay there. And I'm really encouraged, by the way, Rod Thomas, number 5 and 6, is coming along too. I mean, he's playing better and better. Here's what you got to remember. Kirby talks about those plays behind the line that aren't necessarily passes, that are flares and, jet sweeps and things like that, and little passes behind the line. You realize that when Devontae Smith won the Heisman Trophy as an Alabama receiver, he caught 68 balls behind the line of scrimmage in his over 100 and some catches on the year. But they threw him 68, and he caught it 68 times. And every time he caught it, he's a threat. And that's what we're going to see with Lovett. I could see us throwing the ball to him and Bowers 6 or 7 times behind the line every game. Why not? Make them tackle you.
Yeah, but if you do that, then people bitch about Mike Bobo throwing a screen pass.
Well, they're going to do that. And I think you made a good point the other day. There's some built-in people got an attitude about somebody and because of the past. And if maybe Mike's name was Dayne Young or somebody else, and instead of being the guy that used to be here, they say, well, he's moving along. He worked a year under Monken. He's coming along. He's had some injuries to his players. His best back hadn't played much. His best receiver hadn't played at all. He'll be okay. But no, they just
but the way people talk about him, it sounds like they're talking about like Brian Ferentz. I mean, he coached Aaron Murray, SEC all-time passing leader.
Right, and Matthew Stafford. But hey, these are our fans, and we got to do what they want. I wasn't going to say suck up to them. I'm just saying we got to take care of our accounts and answer the questions. So what do we got next?
You're fine. Hey, I want to take a quick break here and mention our friends over at Academia Brewing Company. This is a great place if you want to come in on a, I would say Friday if you're coming up for the whole weekend, but you can go in on a Thursday, a Tuesday, whenever. But let's say the game is late and you're thinking, well, where are we going to eat? Are we going to get in that time to tailgate? I would swing by there, go to lunch, and then, go to the game. Try this mocha chocolate cheesecake they have on their Facebook page. It just looks ridiculous. And the Jack's Cheesecake story is great. And they have a ton of stuff from Jack's Cheesecake in this place. You need to try it out when you get a chance. Swing by Academia Brew Company. Try all their new beers they have out. They just celebrate their 6th year of being in business. They have parties. They have live music. They have car shows. They have bike nights. They have trivia. They have live music. There's always a new beer coming out all the time. I want you to swing by Academia Brewing Company on the west side of Athens. It's Matt Casey, huge Georgia fan. He's got some buses out there you need to check out as well. He's got some custom buses. But again, huge dog fan. So I can guarantee you, come game time, you will be able to hear the game, and it'll be on all the TVs in that place. It's not, oh yeah, we got the game back behind the small bar, and they got loud pumping music everywhere. No, that's a dog place to go watch a game. So try them when you get a chance. I also mentioned when you're on that side of town, go by Athens Ford. Okay, you're maybe a half mile away when you're on the west side. Go down by Athens Ford. They've got all sorts of new deals out. Like right now, they have the $7,000 off on the 2023 Ford F-150. That Mustang Mach-E, you can get it now as low as $459 a month for 39 months. Qualified buyers. Just check out their inventory. I know there's a lot of questions in the air about the UAW strike. My dad was a UAW member for years, very familiar with how the strike thing works out. But right now they have a ton of inventory on their lot. So go out there. There's plenty of Broncos to look at. There's plenty of Focuses and Explorers and F-150s, 250s, all that sort of stuff. Inventory hasn't been this good ever since the start of COVID. So check them out when you get a chance at Athens Ford.
Mike Freeze watching on YouTube says, Coach, aloha from Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Go Dogs.
All right. Aloha.
Question from the vent from North Buckhead Dog. Coach, how do you expect the offensive line to shake out this week with the injuries? With Blasky maybe back this week, does Truss slide back to guard? Did Fairchild play well enough to maintain that spot? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, it'd certainly be good if Blasky's back. I mean, he's a guy that kind of a lot like Fairchild's worked hard, knows his craft, plays good technique, and it keeps you solidified on the left side with Truss and over there at guard where you got to make the calls. A lot of them backside calls when you run to the right and things like that. And you're used to playing with the guy. But I thought Truss did a really good job of without much work coming over there and playing right away. And what we always try to do is put the best 5 out there. So if Blasky is better than Fairchild, I would think maybe, this week, then he would probably play right tackle and Truss play left guard. But if he's not ready to go or Fairchild's playing better, and he did a good job. I mean, he played really good, and he's really strong. I mean, the first thing anybody says over there when you ask him about, God's the strongest guy on our team. Now, if you say this guy's the strongest guy on Georgia's team, then he's one of the strongest players in America. So, because we got some stallions as far as the weight room, it just mystifies me sometimes to walk through that weight room and see what these guys are doing and the way they work and how much they improve their core strength from when they get here till they leave. Scott Sinclair does an amazing job of taking what each guy needs and taking his strengths and developing them and working on their things that aren't as good. And our guys are cut. I mean, you see our DBs, they're cut. What I mean by that, you put them in a body magazine, they look good. I mean, these guys. So I would say right now, based on last week, I could see the same lineup that finished the game.
Jermaine King comment, Dylan Bell just needs a few reps at quarterback and he'll have one of those Hines Ward kinds of seasons.
Yeah, I mean, I could see some of that stuff with Wildcat where you put him back there and just let him snap the ball to him and he just goes on a predetermined play. I could see that. I mean, you see it all the time with people around the country where there's a really good back and quarterback shifts out to wide receiver. And we did it with Miko Hardman and we did it with Cook some. So that could happen. And it could happen with Brock Bowers. That's another way for him to get the ball. 240-pound human bowling ball back there. So that's a good idea, no question.
Yeah, he did it with Nick Chubb and Sony Michel against Oklahoma. Both of them scored from the wild dog formation.
Yeah, good.
Question from Billy Zane. I know you don't overhaul an offense when you have injuries, but with running back injuries piling up, do you think that you'll see a bit of a shift for more passing? I know we have very capable backs, but if we suffer any more injuries, might be in a little bit of trouble.
Good question.
That's a very good question, Billy. I really believe, though, if we can go with the three musketeer trio of Edwards, Bell, and Cash Jones, good enough to win with right there. They all can catch the ball. They can all pass protect. They can run into traffic. They got quickness. And maybe not the big back, but although Bell is pretty big, but not enough to take your style and just say, hey, we're just going to air it out. Now, the first couple games we did because we didn't have Edwards and Bell hadn't even ever played running back. But now, I mean, after Saturday, you got to feel good about the way those three guys looked. And the one thing we haven't done that I can see us doing is throwing the ball to Bell out of the backfield. Start throwing him some of those screens, some of those flares, letting him run the angle route, like Kenny Mack, step up like you're blocking off the weak side tackle or chipping and then coming back over the middle. I mean, you get the ball to him over the middle against some of those linebackers. I can see that evolving. And the young man works at it. I mean, it reminded me a little bit of when I used to have Champ Bailey. I would bring Champ in for a little one-on-one stuff and not in the normal meeting where you just focus on the whole wide receivers and all. You just have one guy and you're talking about what you got to do. And I noticed Bell today when I was over there meeting with the coach a little bit, picking up some extra stuff. So I was impressive with the way he was energized looking at him and listening to him. And the guy's fired up. I mean, he loves Georgia and he loves his role. I mean, he's getting to play and he's making a big contribution to our team.
I also think before you cut out the run altogether, we saw what Makai Muse can do back there too.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with these skill guys. I mean, we got a good skill level. Open field running is going to be pretty good, I think.
Shout out to the North Oconee band that you're going to hear them in the background here through the way in Bogart.
Where are they playing?
I can't tell just yet.
I need to get a little Black Eyed Pea. I need to say boom boom pow. I got that. I want to get some boom boom pow going there.
Bobby, there you go. There's your clip. Bullet for the show.
No, Don't put that on there for me. That embarrassed my kids.
J.34, 2 questions for Coach.
What Love Sosa.
What halftime adjustment did you see against South Carolina? And then with all the injuries starting to rack up, which player do we miss the most so far this season? And why is it Javon Bullard?
Well, one of the things you do, first of all, if you wait to halftime to make an adjustment, you're usually probably going to be beaten because whatever they're doing to hurt you, you better be stopping it in the second quarter as well. You know what I mean? That's why you see the coaches over there with the players after each series talking to them. But we used to time our halftime. We put the clock up there and it'd be going just like you're looking at any clock. You go 1940, 1836 going down, and you had segments. The coaches would meet together for 3 minutes. The coordinators would meet with the players for the position coaches would meet with their players like 4 minutes, and then the coordinators would talk for like 3 minutes. Then the head coach would get in there and talk, and then with 5 minutes to go, you're getting ready to come back out. So it's got to be systematic. But as far as the changes, what are they doing to hurt us? What have they done that we weren't ready for? What did we do to hurt them? And I just can't believe these people calling me here. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Popular coach here tonight. We're in the social hour.
So, but the bottom line is you've got to be able – the first thing you got to do is let your players rest. I've always felt like this. There's a lot of stress involved in the game, anxiety and all. Get them off their feet. If you're playing in a very humid, wet day, a lot of times change uniforms, get a fresh uniform on, or at least change your jersey and your undershirt. But get the players to rest. Talk to the doctors about who can go and who can't, and then get your lineups set. What's hurt us? Like I said, what can we do to hurt them? Why haven't we done this that we planned on doing? And then you condense your game plan that you had 6 days and 6 nights to work on down into a very concise amount of we can't be screwing around here. We're down. I think it'll be important for, if you can tonight, I saw a little bit of the excerpts of the SEC Inside, which showed Georgia last week, showed Georgia in at halftime and talked Kirby Smart talking to his team about we're going to have about 6 possessions here on offense, and they're going to have about 6 on their team. And we got to score 4 times, and we got to hold them to 1. And that's what he told his team. He said, we got to do it moment by moment, all that, but be a good example to watch it. It's going to be on, it's on right now. If it's 8:30, don't watch it now. Wait, tape it, and you got to listen to us. But the biggest thing is reassure your players that we've got a good plan. And if you're better than the other team going in, I always talk to my players. I say, don't let doubt creep in. If you start doubting yourself or doubting our plan or doubting what's going to be our success, then their team is going to be a lot more successful about you. You're going to expect to win instead of worrying about losing, okay? And that's the way to go out the second half. And I thought our team really did a good job of that, going out and seizing the moment and taking – that's a little bit too much philosophy for you, but that's –
No, you're right, because Kirby Smart was asked about that specifically. What kind of fire and brimstone, hellacious speech did you give at halftime to, get after their butts? And he's like, that's not what happened. We were very calm. We were very collected in that room. And he seemed – I don't say excited, but he seemed maybe relieved, because he said, I learned more about my team today than I have throughout the entire situation. And I think if we pulled any clip, I was thinking about, should we pull a clip for this? He said, you only get better by playing close games. He said, every team in the country is going to have a tight game. He says, you get better playing close games. He played a close game. It didn't cost him. He won, but he got an idea of what was going to happen. You got a new leader quarterback. You got some new faces on the defense who've moved around a little bit. And they went in trailing by 2 scores at home when they shouldn't have been. And everyone's like, what the hell is going on? He said there wasn't finger pointing. The offense wasn't calling out the defense, which you've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. Everyone's snappish with each other. Everyone's mad at each other. He says, no, they were very cool, calm, and collected. And we said, we're going to go out there and win, one play after one play, 1 point after 1 point. We're going to do it methodically. Like you said, he laid out, we got to score on 4 of our 6 drives, keep them to only 1. Georgia threw a shutout in the second half. Spencer Rattler was torching him through the secondary. All of a sudden, he couldn't get the passes off, or they were dropped or tackled on the spot. You didn't see a lot of missed tackles in the second half, a lot fewer penalties. And I'm not saying he was happy about it, but he had some questions answered. And that's like one of the first things he said was, I learned a lot about my team. And
you got to do it under fire. And the other thing that he related to is, look, this team's built for this. We had this happen to us last year. We were on the road. This happened to us. That's what you coach your players up in practice. You practice situations where you're behind and you've got to make these plays and all that. So you practice the situations that got you beat and worked on them. And they worked hard on that. Missouri come from behind style last year with the way we played the second half. We, remember how many passes we hit to Kenny McIntosh, very similar to what we threw to and to Bowers, very similar to what we threw to Lovett and to Bowers in the second half.
Roddy, I want you to know I'm fighting all of my comedic instincts right now to not call Coach's phone. I really want to call Coach's phone right now.
Cut it off, man. I don't know. I've had 2 calls. One's a recruiting call. This guy wants his son to come to the game, and I got no idea what to do about it because the last guy I recruited was David Pollock. So I don't know what to do there. So, and he's wearing me out on it. And then another one was NIL, which I'm trying to help some with. So I'm going to have to call him back. So any of y'all want to give some money? I saw, this is unbelievable today. Southern Methodist, SMU, which is a good program. They're going in the ACC. And, they're going to go in there and not get any TV revenue for 9 years just to get in the league and get the schedule. Last week, 7 guys gave them $100 million.
Wow.
Whoa.
So you think their NIL ain't going to be stronger than Aunt Mary's breath?
We're seeing that parity play out across the nation.
I mean,
those things are back.
That's on the national wire. And Mike Kevin was telling me today about it because he, like me, trying to help with NIL, but he knows those people at Southern Methodist too. So, wow, that's a pretty impressive $100 million in 1 week.
Mustangs are just a couple generations early.
Yeah. I can't help you with the NIL thing, but I bet Will Myers over in the recruiting office, they had a ton of kids come in for this past game.
We'll get that straight, but and I apologize for that, but I'm going to have to get back to him. What's the next question there?
Coach, do you think Alabama's problem is quarterback play, or is it bigger than that?
That's Lane Kiffin, man. He's analyzing everything. I saw where he was saying that Alabama changed play callers and all that stuff. He works on their mind, but certainly they're going back to Milroe. I would think that you'll see very similar to what Jalen Hurts does with the Eagles offense. Instead of that Bryce Young stuff they were trying to do the first 3 games, I think they'll move Milroe on the edge and move him around. I like Milroe. Maybe I'm in the minority as far as people but I think Milroe can be a winning quarterback for them. I don't know about their defense though, but it's going to be interesting to see how good Ole Miss is. I mean, I would have never thought Jackson Dart could get 100 yards rushing, but he's now running up and down the field, and they got good receivers. But their defense still got a long way to go, too. But the team that surprised me that looked like dog manure was Mississippi State against trying to cover LSU. I mean, LSU all of a sudden looks really good.
From BKUGA, how do you think Georgia's defensive line has played overall, and who do you see as the leader of that group? I
think Michael Williams is the leader. And Stackhouse, of course, has got good leadership, and then Logue is a senior guy that's always does everything right. But I think we did a lot better job rushing the passer the second half because we covered them better. We got some coverage pressure on him. He was getting the ball out a lot quicker in the first half, but they had a couple nice runs. But overall, you're not going to stop anybody cold. We've been spoiled here with all the way we just shut people cold, but shut them down cold. But I think getting Marvin Jones back will help our defensive rotation too on the edge too. Linebacker wise, I've seen the evolution of Sorey and Walker be pass rushers now in that Jaguar look where you got 18 and 11 lined up. Two more. I mean, you actually have 4 linebackers in the game with Dumas Johnson and Smile in there at the same time. So I think if we can dictate down a distance a lot like the 2022 team, we're a lot better team defensively without Bullard being with him out. But, it's harder to be as overall as good as we need to be in the back end. I could see us taking some athletes like Harris or even taking Everett and moving him over to nickel, moving Tyke back there. Get your best 11 out there like you do on offense. Who knows what we'll do, but that could be something that could happen.
Brent pointed out that Warren Brinson has been quite effective in getting some.
I forgot to mention Warren. I knew I'd miss that. Warren's always good. I mean, he plays very consistent, and he's definitely going to tell the refs if they make a mistake too. He's very good at emulating what happened. But I like him, and he practices good and got a good. He's been good for Georgia. And 44 continues to just be a force that's going to get better and better. And Big J probably will too. I mean, he gets to work. He reminds me of Davis, the way he started out a little slow his freshman year, but he's coming on.
I saw one of those South Carolina guys reach for Warren Brinson, and, they always tell you knock the hands away. He spun that guy about 90 degrees, just sit right past him. I'm like, okay. He's been taking those Trey Sky hand fighting lessons to heart. So it was beautiful to watch.
Roddy, you know what else is good for Georgia? Your pie.
Your pie is very good for Georgia. Tonight is double points night. So it's a little late. It's like 9 o'clock. I can't get my double points in, but you can because you can order today for lunch tomorrow or dinner tomorrow. So go in and say, hey, I want to get the new Philly cheesesteak pizza. I want to get the breadsticks. I want to get a salad. I want to get the pasta. I want a gelato. Give me a brownie too, and I'm gonna pick it up tomorrow at lunch. So swing by any Your Pie to pick it up, but you can order it tonight on the Your Pie app. Or you can order it for delivery, but you can go ahead and set when you want to swing by or when you want to deliver it, and you'll go ahead and get the points now, the double points. And of course, those points they add up very quickly. You get free pizzas, free gelato, free breadsticks, free drinks, all sorts of great stuff. I mean, it's like if people they're like, I'm a Delta person. I got to get my Delta points, which those aren't as good as they used to be. But I got to do everything through Kroger. Well, the loyalty rewards. Some loyalty programs are good, some are not. Well, the one that Your Pie is fantastic, and I always do it on Tuesday because that's the best day of the week to get your extra points. So hit up Your Pie when you get a chance. And I also want to mention a friend of ours because you can get a Your Pie franchise. But let's say I don't want to do pizza, but I like the idea of owning my own business. I like being in charge. I like being the person that signs the front of the checks, and paying other people and, being the owner. Well, reach out to My Perfect Franchise. Reach out to Andy Ludecki over there. You can hit him up on the email him, text him, smoke signals, seance, whatever it is. You can get a hold of Andy Ludecki and he will take care of you. He will walk you through a ton of different options. From fully involved to, dangling a foot in, if you will, when it comes to franchising. It's a completely different world. And if you don't know anything about it, well, that's where Andy steps in. That's his business model, is to take you through all the steps and help you out. And Andy will absolutely do it. It doesn't cost you anything. So if you look into it and you decide it's not for you, no worries, no harm, no foul. If you decide you like it, Andy will get paid by whoever you're going with the franchise with. So it never costs you a dime. So reach out to Andy Ludecki when you get a chance.
I'm going to adapt Bulldog Ben's question to be a bit more philosophical. Coach, how do you get momentum with a passing attack?
Well, one of the things you always want to do early is establish some confidence, with your quarterback. First of all, you try to build in some easy completions, but also some reads that don't constitute a lot of different, because you're not sure what the other team's going to do. So, for instance, if you put a guy in motion, sometimes that's good for your offense, but the defense doesn't do what you thought they would do, and it confuses the quarterback. So I like to just kind of early on let the quarterback get a good feel for what the other team's doing, and not make make them adjust too much. Now, it's okay, conversely, to make them adjust too. So you need to build in a little bit of that too after you get rolling. So I think the biggest thing is just don't get any false sense of security where, he's better than he is by trying these things that aren't that average as far as the consistent throws. So the bottom line is you got things that really work good in practice. If they're working in practice against your scout team that you expect the defense to run against you, then they're probably going to be okay to try in the game. But if you got this good idea and it doesn't work against the scout team, that play's not going in for me in that game, because my scout team not as good usually as that other team. Sometimes they are, but so the other thing is, what's your offensive line's capability to hold out the other team? So instead of maybe doing a 5-out route where every lineman's blocking one-on-one, you might, till you can really, they got a really good pass rusher, you might really starting out put 2 guys on their best guy and make sure that the quarterback doesn't get discombobulated on his first throw and gets jacked. And then that gets in his mind, thinking about, hey, I gotta watch out for this guy here, and so my deal with the quarterback is try to establish as easy communication as you can as far as the play and the formation, where he can really settle in on what the defense is doing and execute, as compared to really trying to just bombard him right off the bat, So that's the way I try to start.
Question from Till Dog. Coach, you've mentioned you really like Andrew Paul's potential at running back. Any idea why we're not seeing more of him? Is that knee bothering?
I don't know what the deal is with him. These other guys are playing good too, but he might be having some knee issues. I don't know. I need to ask about that, but I like him. I mean, he catches the ball. He runs with speed and agility. Got to be something wrong with him.
I think he had a little knee swelling.
What I mean by that, he's got to have some injury situation when I say something wrong with him.
Yeah.
No, you're clear.
From Bush Dog, what defensive adjustments did Georgia make against 17 Xavier Leggett in the second half? Did Georgia switch defenders, or was it more scheme?
Yeah, I thought our leverage was better as far as where we ended up on the guy. And, we weren't chasing him near as much as, starting the game. And I think Radi mentioned it in his report that I read there before the game, because he always tells me what's going to happen. But he was talking about 17 was really a good receiver, and we were going to have to negate him. He's leading the league. And he started out the first drive and caught 2 good ones. And, we got caught trailing him on one, and then another one he just broke inside. But I think what they did was, if you just look at my formation here, number 1, he's lined up as a split end on the backside of a 3-by-1. Number 2, he's lined up as a slot on a 3-by-1, working on your nickel guy. And number 3, he's lined up as the inside receiver on a 3-by-1 right here. He's this guy. So what we were trying to do is play him with whoever the guy was that had that position. And in the second half, we kind of figured out where he was and made sure we had more than one guy on him.
That makes sense to me.
That's why it's a coach.
Yeah.
That's all of our questions from UGASports.com, which got us mostly through the show. But now we get some fun ones from YouTube. From Jerry W. Coach Donnan, why don't teams use the fullback position much these days?
Well, the first thing, you don't recruit them. There's not any teams in high school that run a few teams run the wing tee and things like that, but it's hard to find a guy that's just a blocking type player. Most of the teams run the spread where the guy's a running back and he catches the ball. But what we've seen here, and it's a good question, is the evolution of what we call the U, which is not the Y. The Y is a tight end, but the U is a guy that comes in for a fullback, and he can line up as another tight end or a motion guy, or he can come in the backfield. But he's a bigger person. He's a tight end type or a hybrid type that can line up on the line of scrimmage and block, but also come out of the backfield and catch passes, or go in motion and be the lead blocker, or go in motion and block the backside when you run duo or split zone and things like that. So there is a fullback type, but he's called the U now, and he's a bigger guy.
Roddy, I'm going to send this one your way because it's one of your favorites. Given the running back depth question, why have we not heard more about Savon Clark?
I'm a big Clark fan. You go out there, watch practice. He looks like an SEC caliber back to me, but it's just a situation where when you see Dylan Bell do what he does, it's tough. Are you ahead of him? Or are you ahead of Dejon Edwards? Or are you ahead of Cash Jones? It's just tough. I mean, he's good, but he's just not as good as those guys, apparently. So, I mean, they give him all the chances in the world. Again, big fan. I think I could see teams reaching out to him, trying to get him to transfer, which, of course, will be tampering. But we know that stuff happens. And I'm like, I think this guy's a great back. But I remember everyone was talking about Laneith Whitehead playing. And I'm like, well, Savon Clark knows the offense better. So if you're getting down that far into the depth chart, which you may be, it wouldn't shock me to see him out there. We saw him play a little bit, but it's just tough to get ahead of all those other guys.
Question from Andy Adams. It seemed like Dayne Everett got picked on a little bit from South Carolina in that game. Shane Beamer must have done some homework. Does Georgia not have a better corner than Everett? I'm going to interject here. South Carolina is a really, really good quarterback. And so he's likely the best in the SEC. And good corners don't struggle against that.
He's definitely good, but I don't know if he's the best. But he had a good first half. But here's the thing: we got number 3 out there, who's among the better athletes and the better corners in the country, in Kamari Lassiter. And if you got a choice to throw on him or a guy that's never played before, you're going to throw on him. We're still trying to establish that corner position. We got Julio Humphrey, we got Nyland Green that can play there. We got Harris. We got some other guys, but you're not going to shut him down. I mean, you're going to – and he's a little nervous there. I was glad we played off him the first half. They didn't hit a lot of deep balls on him. They did hit a couple deep crossing routes, but you're just not going to shut down a good receiver cold. And I think Everett will continue to improve. He's got big shoes to fill being a corner in Georgia, but it's definitely a good question, but if I got my choice, I'm going to throw on anybody but Lassiter. I wouldn't throw on Lassiter.
Yeah, Lassiter had 3 pass breakups in that game, so that's I wouldn't throw on him either because he proved it in game. And I think you pointed out exactly what they were doing with Levitt is like, let's move him here so that he gets covered by a safety. Let's move him here so he gets covered by a safety. Let's move him here so he gets covered by a safety. And therefore, you try to pick – you have him versus Dan Jackson or David Daniel, who didn't really know they were going to start until right before the game or play that much before the game. So, yeah, they're going to pick on you, go after that guy, but that doesn't mean that Dayne Everett's not the answer there. So,
yeah, the biggest deal is all these teams got coaches, they got analysts. I mean, they watch these guys, everything about them. I mean, you can't imagine the fine-tooth comb that the scouting reports are. And when this guy's foot is in this position, he's playing this kind of coverage on the get-go. When this guy's lined up in this position, a little bit off the ball at tackle, it's a pass. When he's got a little weight forward on his hand, it's a run. We try to work on looking for tips like that. And So if you're overmatched, which South Carolina had to feel they were coming in here, you're going to look for ways that we can be successful against the weakest part of their team, and we had a new corner. So we had a safety go down. That's why you see when a guy gets injured, a team will go right after to the next guy that comes in, next play.
I need to do some producing on the fly here because we have less than 5 minutes left. Coach, do you have a joke for us tonight?
No jokes. I mean, when you win 24-14, and I got my game face on for UAB. I got no jokes this week.
Radi, yes, this is what we have. One more break in us.
Yeah, I want to mention a new sponsor that you saw them on the Watch Along show. It's My Better Life Science, and it's basically a company. One of the partners is Josh Millard, very well known, very well beloved Georgia football player. He's part of this thing, part of this group, and it's basically a test kit. People have done like the 23andMe type things where you send in a little sample and they test it and say, hey, you're 16% Nigerian, you're 43% Egyptian, you're 19% Scotch Irish, whatever. Well, that's all cool, but that won't save your life. This test from Better Life Science will. It's an allergy test and a food intolerance test. And so you can check it out, and it will test up to about 295 different items. And it's really easy to go to their website. It's mybls.com, My Better Life Science. You don't have to remember the whole name, just remember MyBLS. And it will test you for food and allergies and environmental things. And this is a company that they're right here in Georgia. They were the first to discover COVID in the state of Georgia. And they did tons and tons of tests. They created all these tests. When you were trying to find a test, very likely you bought the ones or were given the ones from My Better Life Science. And now they've taken a lot of that laboratory space and converted it into allergy testing. So check them out when you get the chance. They do a great job. And we have Josh who can vouch for them. And Coach Don and I went there. We had our tests done. They do a little stick on your finger, try it out. They test almost 300 items. And Coach is immune to anything except bad football. Apparently he has no sensitivities or allergies. And I have a sensitivity to paper wasp venom. So I avoid wasps anyway. So I'm also allergic to spiders. It didn't say that, but I know I am. So I don't like spiders. I do want to mention also our friends at Dead Soxy. They just had that 40% off deal because Georgia was able to win by 40 points last week, or more than 40 points, and they had the whole 2 weeks ago. And they had the margin of victory sale, and they maxed it out at 40. So I know a lot of people bought socks from them at 40% off. That's ended, but you can still get 25% off if you go to deadsoxy.com and use promo code UGASports. And you can see like they have those cool no-shows there with the red and black and white stripes on them. They have tons of great black and white socks. If you didn't get a set for this year, then you're the reason Georgia's a little slow in that first half because they've been a sponsor for 2 years. Georgia's won 2 championships. If you didn't get them this year, don't screw with the tradition. So hit our friends at Dead Soxy, and they will take great care of you like they've taken great care of us here at UGA Sports.
We'll take 2 more questions from Alex. Why did Mekhi Muse not get more touches this past week?
Just the luck of the draw. I mean, they're throwing the ball to a lot to Lovett, and he just didn't get it. So, I mean, he's behind, Lovett in the pecking order, I guess. So that's what happened.
And then Francisco, I like this question from just a coaching strategy standpoint. Do you address the kicker? 3 points can change a game here or there. How do you handle a kicker that misses a kick or two?
Yeah, I think the one thing you got to do is reassess him after the game. But during the game, I mean, you just got to go up there and talk to him and say, look, think about your technique. We got confidence in you. You can get another shot. Be ready the next time. But during the week, this week, when a guy misses 2 and you got somebody that's really close, you put some pressure on them. You you go out there and practice and you work on it, and then all of a sudden, you have special teams practice, but all of a sudden during the practice itself, you just stop and everybody will come up and they'll start yelling at the kicker and doing all that and see how he does with everybody watching. And the other guy gets the kick. And I know sometimes you say, if you miss one, we're going to make everybody on the team do up downs, which that doesn't make the coaches feel, and then sometimes you say everybody, that includes coaches, staff, and everybody. So I don't know that they ever do that here, but the whole idea is put some pressure on them, because that's nothing like it is when the band's playing and you got to have it. So the guy has won the job and he's done good, but realistically, he's missed 3 now, and we've been spoiled. So I'm sure they're charting him this week, and if he was the best in practice, he'll get the job, and if he wasn't, they'll use another guy.
I can't imagine being the kicker responsible for Chidera Uzodiribe to have to do up downs. I would feel bad telling Trey Scott or Stacey Searles, hey, sorry, coach, you got to do up downs, but Chidera just give me a look and he'd pop up and down too.
I don't know if they'll do that here, but that's just another way of. I know one thing we used to do for morale when, trying to just everybody's real hot or something, we'd have it end the practice. We'd let a big lineman see if he could kick a field goal from the 15-yard line. If he did, we wouldn't run sprints. And boy, you talk about some pressure on those guys now. And then sometimes that ball wouldn't even get 2 yards high. It looked like he pulled a hamstring kicking it. And then we had a defensive lineman play bump and run coverage on an offensive lineman. They throw the fade route to him to see if they could have another offensive lineman. That's good for morale.
I like it. There was one other question here from Francisco Hurtado. So, the coach, could you say to audible to move the defense to have if you audible, basically, do you give the defense the advantage because you're changing the original play?
Do I give the defense the advantage when I audible?
Yeah.
I really think it's the opposite of that, because the reason I'm changing my play is what the defense is in, and what my play's not good against what they're looking. So we got certain.
But what you wanted to do, I think it's his idea, is like, hey, here this is the play you want to run, but now you can't because they're in something to stop it.
That's true, but we got some runs that we're going to run no matter if they got who they got over there. We're just going to go and say, hey, you got to stop us. You got others that you got either or we just there's no way you're going to be able to do it. So, but some of those Ray Charles chicks. It's nothing against blind people, but you just gotta. It's pretty obvious. You got to check that sucker off, man.
Yeah. Well, there were a few of those as we mentioned earlier.
Herbie was talking about. He said that Beck made some good checks.
Yep. Same person, Francisco Hurtado, says, is it possible Coach Bobo is trying to play conservative to protect Beck as opposed to opening up the playbook? You just mentioned how to get him in a rhythm. But to me, when Kirby was asked about the specific, he says the plays are the same. So I don't know that they're trying to not use the playbook. Do you feel like they're calling?
No, we're not holding anything back. We just don't.
That's what I was trying to ask. Thanks.
We don't have all the chapters in the playbook to run. Some of those plays to McConkey hard to run. Guys, you got 3 or 4 reads on it by the receiver. These younger guys don't know how to do all that stuff yet. So,
do people really think that Mike Bobo was operating from a different playbook in the first half than the second half? No.
If they do, that's their. We ran 79 plays the other night, got over 400 some yards. I don't remember us being quite this harsh on Monken against Kentucky or Kent State or some of those people. We won 24-14. Offense dominated second half. So
2 years ago,
great job.
Mike
2 years
Bobo
they hated Monken then.
Pressure a lot as a player and a coach. And I feel good about it.
All right, folks, that's all the time we have for this week's show. We really appreciate you changing your schedule up and joining us in the evening. It means a lot to us. We had some stuff we needed to move around, and we always enjoy it.
Yeah, it's my fault, but I was working for Georgia today.
I can attest for the fact that Coach was doing some Georgia work there. So by you all joining us at 8 o'clock, you were helping Georgia out because you let Coach do some stuff that he needed to do for the Bulldog Nation. So we appreciate you joining us, and we would really love it if you would come back to this, share it with your friends, maybe comment under the video. And again, thanks for getting us to 39,000 subscribers as we march to 40,000. We will see you.
See if you can get 10 million for NIL.
We will see you folks next week. Take care.